Fund is known affectionately and respectfully as the Dean of American Journalists. 40 years in the profession, he's never seen as dangerous a bill as H.R. 1. It's a takeover of elections to benefit Democrats. It is truly third world corruption. I really never thought I would use these words to describe something in America. So I need to understand, John, and I really, when I say that, my listeners know it's not a euphemism for I just want to ask a question. I don't understand how the government, the federal government, can tell states how to vote.
The Constitution gives the states the right to conduct elections as they wish. But there is a carve-out for Congress, and this would be if there was a rogue state that prevented people from voting. We had a civil rights struggle in the 1960s over that allows Congress to override the states in an emergency. And it has only been used in emergency situations. This would take that provision and expand it to the edges of the universe and basically have a federal takeover of all state election laws.
Would or could that be challenged in the courts?
It would be challenged in the courts, but the law cleverly says that any challenge to H.R. 1 must be filed with the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. That court was packed with liberal activist Democrats by Harry Reid 6 years ago. They blew up the filibuster for judges just to make sure that 4 liberal judges could be added to that court. That court would almost certainly reject any constitutional challenge to H.R. 1. Then the only appeal would be to the U.S. Supreme Court. And then, of course, the same forces that have intimidated some justices on that court would be brought to bear. So while the U.S. Supreme Court may well strike it down, would they strike down all of it or just portions of it? And can we count on them doing that, or should we stop it now? We should stop it now.
It's extremely scary, and I don't get scared easily. So give some of the worst provisions.
Well, it mandates that all states must allow all felons to vote. It forces same-day voter registration on states, which has been shown over and over again to encourage voter fraud. It limits the ability of states to talk to each other to see if people are registered in one or more states. It prevents any cleanup of voter rolls within 6 months of an election, which means the dead will be fully enfranchised. And look, I admire our ancestors, but I don't believe in representation without respiration. And it bans states from making any laws regulating voting by mail. It demands that states adopt new redistricting commissions, which often are designed in such a way as to benefit one party or another. It mandates that mandatory voter registration, in other words, if your name appears on any government list, Dennis, the DMV, the property tax rolls, Medicare, anything, you are automatically registered to vote. Now, many people appear on more than one list for the government. In fact, some appear on dozens. Well, all of you would be registered, including all variations of your name, middle initial, and everything else. That would create an incredible confusion and chaos, which clever people could use to manipulate and cast votes on your behalf or many of your doppelganger parts.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know how much you follow this, but we have a recall campaign here where I live in California. And it is, of course, with regard to Gavin Newsom as governor. They are so strict with regard to the credibility of each vote that even though you can have the recall election with 1.5 million signatures, they try for nearly 2 million. Because so many are thrown out because the color of the ink was not proper, the signature was not fully there. On that, they're really strict.
Boy, have you identified their hypocrisy. I'm from California, as you know, Dennis, and here's just 2 things you have to know about how California election law is conducted. California will ignore people registering to vote if they have problems with their paperwork, but they will, of course, enforce it for the recall of a Democratic governor. And California is the only state in the country where it is illegal. An election worker, an election official can go to jail if they ask someone for their voter ID.
And will that be the national law under H.R. 1?
H.R. 1 is 975 pages.
975 pages just on voting law?
Oh, I'm sorry. The table of contents is 24 pages.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Did you read it?
I have read summaries of it. I am skimming the rest of it. I do not believe, as of yet, that they make it requirement that every state make it illegal to ask for a voter ID. But remember, the voter ID law is gutted because they basically make it meaningless.
Right. You also mentioned the length of time. We have gone from election day to election month. What exactly are they trying to do?
Well, think about this, Dennis. Everything in your life happens faster and more conveniently than it ever did. I mean, you can get a package delivered by Amazon in 2 hours. You can get almost anything instantly on the Internet in terms of looking up something. The only thing in our life that has slowed down since you and I were younger is election results, because so many people are being encouraged or compelled to vote by mail. We have an election month in which people vote by mail in advance of the election, sometimes even before the debates are finished. Then we have an election day where we count those people who insist on voting at the polls. And then we have an election month afterwards so we can have courts fight about it and count the ballots. California
All right, hold on to remember the California point. Back in a moment with John Fund.